This section explains realist international political scholar Karl Morgenthau from the First World War to after the Second World War. In his work, The 20 Years Crisis, Camille primarily criticized the liberal theory, often referred to as utopia. Camille contrasted utopianism and realism in many aspects. First, Camille contrasts utopia with reality. First, I will introduce Karl after the First World War. Next, I will introduce Hans Morgenthau after the Second World War. As seen in Section 2, realism has a character of profound tragedy. The two world wars of the 20th century inevitably introduced a tragic tone to realist thought. Karl was a British historian, diplomat, journalist, and international relations theorist. He published many books and is renowned as an international theorist. He is particularly famous for the following two books: The 20 Years Crisis, 1919 to 1939, and What is History? After the First World War, at the Versailles Conference, American President Wilson led an idealistic diplomacy advocating self-determination and the creation of the League of Nations. However, Carter, a career diplomat, criticized this idealistic diplomacy as utopianism. In his work, The 20 Years Crisis, Carr primarily criticized the liberal theory, known as utopianism. Carr contrasted utopianism and reality from various perspectives. Initially, Carr contrasts utopia and reality. The conflict between utopia and reality is a fundamental opposition that appears in many forms of thought. The opposition between the two constantly swings as if trying to achieve balance like scales, but never fully reaches this equilibrium. Secondly, Carr contrasts free will and determinism. The opposition between utopia and reality can, in a sense, be seen as the opposition between free will and determinism. Utopians are inevitably liberal. The utopians more or less fundamentally believe in the possibility of denying reality, and they believe that they can change reality into utopia through the workings of will. The realists analyze the predetermined development processes that cannot be changed by themselves. Thirdly, Carr contrasts theory and practice. The conflict between utopia and reality also corresponds to the conflict between theory and practice. Utopians see political theory as a norm that political practice should follow. For realists, political theory is a systematization of political reality. Fourth, Carr contrasts ethics and politics. Utopians set forth ethical standards that aim to be independent of politics and try to align politics with these ethical standards. Realists, logically, do not accept any values other than the value of facts as their standard. Next, I will introduce Hans Morgenthau after the Second World War. The world after the Second World War began with the division of the world by the three leaders of the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom, Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill, at the Yalta Conference. Hans Morgenthau formulated this power politics. Morgenthau explains 6 principles of international politics from the viewpoint of realism in international politics. First, from the perspective of political realism, politics, like society in general, is governed by objective laws rooted in human nature. Second, the main guidepost when political realism navigates the landscape of international politics is the concept of the national interest, defined by power. Thirdly, in realism, the central concept of interest defined as power is an objective category with universal validity. Fourth, political realism understands the moral significance of political actions. Fifth, political realism does not attempt to equate the moral aspirations of a particular country with the moral laws governing the world. Sixth, a definite difference exists between political realism and other schools of thought.